Let's talk about Satokowashi-hen, or as I call it, Oyashiro-sama ga miteru. Maria-sama ga Miteru is this anime from about 2004 to 2009 with 4 seasons and a few OVAs. It's basically about this elite Christian girls academy where a whole bunch of really prim and proper girls gather around and drink tea and fix each other's collars when they're just a little bit off, and they give each other these really refined and elegant greetings in the morning like Gokigen yo, which is what they say in Japanese. And yeah, basically it's this super girly environment that someone like Rika would really look up to, whereas a girl who's much rougher around the edges like Satoko would not care the least about. So why did I watch this anime? Well, when you're an anime blogger, there are going to be a whole bunch of other male anime bloggers who keep pushing girly anime at you, saying that, hey, just because it looks girly doesn't mean it actually is. It's something that anyone can enjoy. So you're just ignorant if you refuse to watch it. So eventually I gave in, I watched it, and it's fine. But once again, if you really idolize this sort of prim and proper, elegant, refined environment, then you're going to get the most out of it. Now, there's no question that Higurashi draws some inspiration from Maria-sama ga Miteru. You can at least see this in Higurashi Kira when there's a parody scene where you have Mio and Reina doing a sort of ribbon fixing scene right in front of each other, and that's because they have the same voice actress for Mio and one of the main characters in Maria-sama ga Miteru. Anyway, there's no question that, yeah, this is the kind of environment that someone like Rika would really thrive in because she is refined, she's elegant, she's really girly, whereas Satoko, for her, this is hell on earth. Satoko is absolutely miserable at her new school, so when she stumbles across Oyashiro-sama's time looping power, she decides that she is going to out-time loop Rika and make sure that Rika's will is broken so that she doesn't want to go to St. Lucia anymore. Now this raises a few questions. I mean, wouldn't the easiest thing to do be to just study for a little while and then be done with St. Lucia altogether? Well, I have no idea why Satoko didn't choose this route. As far as we know, she just went down the St. Lucia route twice. There was the original route and then one more time, which ended with the chandelier crashing down. But there are other things she could have possibly tried. I mean, maybe she could have failed the test on purpose and then she wouldn't have to go to the school, but then again, who knows how fate works. Maybe through Mion and Shion's grandmother's connections, she would have ended up in that school anyway. Maybe everyone else would have died so that she would have passed the test by default. Who knows? But in any case, I really don't understand what Satoko is thinking. One of the funny things about St. Lucia is how Hinamizawa physics do not apply. I mean, back in Hinamizawa, people were beating each other up, throwing each other all over the place. If you dropped a bucket on someone, they'd get up without any injury as if nothing ever happened. But at St. Lucia, if you drop a bucket on someone, they're bleeding all over the place. They have to go to the nurse's office. And even Satoko and Rika, if you drop a chandelier on them, they are not immune to that either. So I just thought that was kind of funny. Now let's talk about the version of Oyashiro-sama that Satoko ran into. In the Japanese ending credits, you just saw the voice actress's name without any character name written next to her. And then eventually they went along with Eiwa, which is just kind of what Satoko mumbled, and this Oyashiro-sama picked up as the name that she was going to stick with. But who exactly is this? Clearly it's not Hanyu, because Hanyu has a much more childlike figure. She has this crack in her horns that reduces her power, whereas this Oyashiro-sama, she is adult looking, she is imposing, and she has horns in perfect condition. So I prefer to think of her as just some sort of powered up Oyashiro-sama, some true originally powered Oyashiro-sama. And if you want to get into the whole Umineko mythology, yes, she is clearly an incarnation of Featherine Augustus Aurora, this really powerful old witch who stores her memory in her horns. But I don't think you should have to view it through that lens. I mean, even in Umineko, you can ignore the existence of witches if you really want to. So I definitely don't think you should have to hold that witch standard in Higurashi as well. But yeah, I basically just prefer to think of her as the original or powered up Oyashiro-sama, kind of an Oyashiro-sama on steroids. Satoko decides to loop through all of the worlds that Rika went through, and she realizes that other characters are slowly but surely remembering their previous lives. Now, what I think is really interesting here, and perhaps the most interesting part of this whole season, is that her uncle is starting to remember as well and is starting to reform. Now, this is interesting because, her uncle has huge psychological sway over her, and if there's one thing that could derail Satoko, it's daddy issues. So I was hoping to see more of that, but that only lasted for one episode, basically. And after that, they just moved on to Mio's world, where Mio has the same thing kind of happen to her. She starts to soften up, and in doing so, she allows Satoko to sort of swoop in and steal her drugs. This brings us to the end of Higurashi Go, but it's not the end of the story. I mean, we're going to get a conclusion arc called Higurashi Sotsu beginning in July. Now, what does Sotsu mean? Well, it's usually associated with the term Sotsugyo, which means graduation, and it can also mean leadership, but I think most likely it means something along the lines of graduation, a huge conclusion arc where everyone can sort of graduate and move on with their lives. Now, what did I think of Higurashi Go as a whole? Well, let's be honest, it is a lot of recap, especially for the first half, so I can't say it's that great, although the endings of those little recap arcs were interesting. And after that, you get into a lot of really weird territory where I don't quite understand Satoko's motivations, and also by powering up Satoko, you're taking power away from Riga and Mio. Those are my two favorite characters. Their battle was legendary, and I don't want to see their battle devalued by Satoko's new arc here. But it is what it is, and we're going to see exactly where it goes in Higurashi Sotsu, so see you in July.